Welcome, David Behrens. I'm so happy to be speaking with you today. I've met you a few years ago. You did the trauma-informed section of the 300-hour teacher training. You've done a few sessions with me as well in terms of mindfulness and working through grief that have really helped me, as well as creating a breakthrough for myself in self-care just from like one conversation that we had. So if you don't know David Behrens, I'll introduce you to him. He has 27 years of active practice as a monk. And then for the past 12 years, David has worked with top London clinics in functional medicine, psychology, and psychiatry, specializing in mindfulness and meditation programs for mental and emotional health, stress management and resilience, and freedom from addictive behaviors. He also studied Ayurveda, medicine, homeopathy, and nutrition. And he is presently teaching regularly for the NHS Recovery College of am I saying it right? Gloucestershire?
Close, Gloucestershire. Excellent.
Sure, for mental health recovery, and is a member of the team for the leading clinic orchestrate in London for private mental health and addiction specialist care. And through his in-depth knowledge of mindfulness and meditation, he has developed a therapeutic model to serve mental health recovery, relapse prevention, and pain and stress management. So thank you so much for chatting with me today, David, because you are going to be giving a self-care breakthrough retreat in just a week from now on November 4th. It's online, so people can join from anywhere in the world. And so I wanted to know, for you, what is self-care? Like, how would you define that?
Self-care is very much about how we have, we can say, a healthy relationship to ourselves. So it's all built on our relationship. And in many ways, whether we call it, we become our own best friend, we become our own best caretaker. And in many ways, I almost believe eventually we become almost our own best doctor and our own best therapist. Because who knows oneself better than oneself? But the problem is, we sometimes have lost that ability and we have to regain it, or we never were taught. It's different for each person. And then when I say self care of oneself, it has to be a holistic model where we see ourselves holistically and we really learn the skills, first relationship, and then building the most healthy relationship, which then leads into making the most healthy choices. But then we also have to define what healthy means. And healthy, more than anything, is an inner experience. And we'll talk about how to understand whether we just call it the flow of life's energy. That's when we feel the most healthy.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Like when you say that you're in the flow where you feel sustained and you feel calm but alert at the same time. And so I guess you'll be sharing some practices with us for optimizing that state or like
Yeah, I
encourage.
mean, we'll talk about optimizing. I like to use the term vitality. Such a beautiful word. And it's also, when I studied homeopathy, we can say it's the vital force. And if those who have studied Chinese medicine, of course, it's the flow of the qi. And then, of course, in modern medicine, Hippocrates, we'll talk a little bit about this. They talked about balance, where everything is working in the best way, which is homeostasis. And it's a skill, a practice. And like with all relationships, we have to learn how to make it work. Just like a relationship with the ones we love, but ourselves, we have to learn how to do that.
It's so true. We're so often focused outward on making relationships work and basically making everything in our lives work, all the things that we don't have total control over because we can't control other people's reactions, for example. So it's nice to think about self-care as like this inner compass, I guess, of like controlling or guiding the inner landscape and having a more harmonious relationship with oneself, and then seeing how that manifests outward.
Yeah, and it is an ability to be present and aware within one's own self. And we'll talk about it, whether it's the physical body, whether we're talking about the nervous system, we'll talk about a lot because that is such a powerful compass of what is happening in the body. And then, of course, it's all linked to our minds, which is our talking mind, our emotions, which is a combination of both. And finally, sometimes we talk about the source of vitality, where we can almost pick a universal language for our deeper spirituality too. So it's about linking it all together, but it is a skill building and it has to be experiential. And at the same time, we do have to break free from the parts that somehow pull us away from doing that. And that has a lot to do with, the past and our present, what we've absorbed from the past, or actually what's happened to us. And we have to then deal with the challenges of all of that.
And that brings me to the next question about, why is it that so many of us find self-care difficult, or at least being able to commit to it and make it consistent feels difficult, that we put everything else first?
Well, it's possible that we were taught that. We weren't taught the opposite of what you just shared. So we don't have sort of the mechanism, the past skill. And the other thing is, how do we change behavior? And that's always, I also work at the functional medicine clinic, and I work with nutritionalists, and they always talk about they give this amazing diet and they offer all the supplements and it's all wonderful. But the problem still, the person can't kind of make those choices yet. Something pulls them in the other direction, where they're either self-medicating with food or overeating, undereating. And at the same time, the same thing with lifestyle and the way one lives. We've lost that connection, that relationship. So it's about building it and learning the science and psychology of behavioral change. There's a few interesting tips for behavioral change. We'll go into that. I'll just give one key word. We only do a behavior because there's a reward. Otherwise, we won't do it. So it's this subtlety about learning how to reframe what we do with our language, and also begin to recreate basically the reward of health. The health experience becomes the reward. So somehow we strive for that, but then we have to start by having the little moments of that reward.
I love that. So the new reward being health, rather than the comfort of whatever the behaviors are that soothe us in the moment, but are maybe not the best for us long term. So you'll be teaching us about that from a psychology and mindfulness perspective. I'm so, so, so excited to find out more about that. So what are some of the rewards of regular self-care?
Well, the reward is beginning to learning how to value, like you shared a moment ago, that experience of our life energy flowing.
Mm.
And it's also about a sense of feeling present and able to engage in moment by moment life. You can say with joy and hopefully success, and able to just, you feel alive. And you kind of a good test on how you're doing is, how do you feel when you first wake up? And how do you feel when you go to bed? And if the answer is, mm, then yes, we have to find a way to go to bed ready for the beautiful land of sleep and learn how to wake up for the land of day to day life. So it's and hopefully we have good sleep. So of course there's all the aspects of what you eat, how you eat, your lifestyle, providing proper sleep. It's all these things of self-care, and but it's so much about knowing oneself and learning how to be compassionate to oneself, and eventually the term called loving oneself, not in an ego way but in a truly honorable way. And then of course we're then able to offer so much better care for others if we learn it in that way, whether it's our children or older people, or if we have the work of taking care of others. Otherwise, right now, so many people are suffering with that term burnout. A lot of these great hotels that offer beautiful retreats, they now all have a whole section to bring people in from around the world, because now so many people suffer from burnout with that ability's been lost. And I'll bring in some really good reflections. Of course, we'll only have so much time together, but I want to know that you will have practices, seeds will be planted, reflective things that you can take with you and build on.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, because really, if people want to know what to do for self care, they can Google it. But like you said, it's what's stopping us from making those good choices for us in a regular way. What are you most excited about in terms of what you're going to share with us during this retreat, this online retreat?
I think it's about the joy of knowing that we're learning a way to honor our own great heart and self within, and in a sense, honor all the parts. So I guess I'm excited to share something which is very meaningful for me, and I find the key to building health, the key to recovery. And it's exciting when a person begins to have that experience. And then there's also an exchange in even just being together online. If we touch it, and somehow it's shared if either of us touch it. And I also believe when we focus on truths, a lot of these things are truths, they're principles. And then I know, and we hopefully will all know that, yeah, that's how I can build it. And it's just exciting when that happens for individuals, individually and collectively.
Yeah, a lot can happen in a short time because we had talked, I think, before we started the interview about that double whammy of it's like I go to the thing that comforts me and that gives me temporary relief or a temporary reward. And then when I go to it, then afterwards I have like the double whammy of feeling guilty about it, right? So
Yeah,
when we come, and I think that's why we say the empowered flow of self-care, it's like when you choose yourself. So a lot of the breakthrough is about how to choose yourself, love yourself, and from there choose the longer term rewards that go against the past programming, but this new reward, and to be able to really commit to it and having the tools to know how to do that in a really a lasting way is what it seems.
yeah, yeah, and it will be skill building and understanding the principles, and then yeah, very soon you build sort of the bank of successful choice behaviors, which then reinforces the ability to go in that healthy direction. And you also are building brain functions that allows you to be aware and present, rather than the famous automatic pilot where you're not even sure what happened before you know you've gone the other way you didn't want to go, and you get the result. You don't get the reward so much afterwards. You get it just in the moment. And then afterwards, you get other things which you wish, oh my goodness. But in the present moment, when you learn that skill, you can make the choice.
That's a really good point about the autopilot. Do you believe that people can make a lasting change during this retreat? And what will people get out of it?
Well, I believe for sure you will learn the building blocks. You will have experiences that I would hope, and my wish is that aha moments. Ah, yeah, yeah, I got it. And then you'll come away with skills. And of course, it's just only so much time, but you will come away with a lot of understanding. We'll have experiences, we'll have practices, you'll have reflections. And I will say the key will be my goal is I inspire you and Melanie support so that you somehow find a way to integrate this and then the building blocks start. And there will be a way also, we'll find creative ways to stay in touch. So you'll have continual support.
That's amazing. Well, sign me up. I'm so excited. I will obviously be there to facilitate. I know that you have a very strong self-care practice, and it comes through in your presence, right? So that in itself is inspiring in terms of that transmission. I hope you will join us for our self-care breakthrough retreat on November 4th. It's a Saturday from 10 to 12, and then I believe from 1 to 3. So two chunks, and we wanted to keep it, a light day in honor of self-care. And as David said, there will be a lot of takeaways in terms of skills and practices that you can take with you, a community that you'll be with to continue to encourage each other. And of course, the recording will be available for a few weeks after. So if you can't make it on November 4th and you're interested in the content, you can still register and watch it on your own time. Being in the group, there's something special about being live online in the group, but you can still get a lot of benefit from.
For sure.
So, David, thank you so much for your time and for telling us a little bit about what to expect and inspiring us about the possibility of once and for all getting into that regular self care practice. We'll see you on Saturday.
All the best.